Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell and this is Spiral Up, where we talk about practical everyday things you can do to improve your experience and get more of what you want out of life. And today I wanted to talk about your two brains. Did you know you had two brains? Yeah, so you've got two brains, and I want to talk about how you can best use them to propel yourself forward to the place that you really want to be. So let's jump into it. All right, so your brain, your magic brain. So we have two hemispheres, and you've probably heard this, two sides to the brain. We have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. And these hemispheres basically function independently of each other. And they are joined in the middle by a group of nerves called a ganglia. And the name of this ganglia is the corpus callosum. And it's the largest nerve ganglia in the body. And it's the place where the left and right brain communicate to each other so that they can talk to each other, because our two brains see the world differently. Okay, so we have a right brain, and as you can see behind me, the right brain is basically creativeness. It likes color, it likes music, it likes different things, it likes imagination, creativeness, art, all that kind of stuff is right brained. Left brain is analytics, maths, putting things in boxes, sequences, everything has its place, all that kind of stuff is left brain. And these are both, we need both of these ways of thinking. We need to interpret the world through both of these ways because it is a physical world. So we need to still be in touch with our creative side, our right side brain. This is our creative side brain. This is where we get ideas and intuition. And it's the imagined future and past, and basically it's where most of our gifts lie. It's what we have. It's where things aren't known, and we just sort of put out into the world and the ether, our intention of what we want. This is our right side brain. Our left side brain is the one that keeps us alive so that we can get to the end game. It's the one that looks at things and it sort of says, oh. It helps us sequence the world so that we can put things in boxes, so that when we look at things, we know what we're looking at, we can interpret them easily, we can use our judgment of past circumstances to judge in the present, which we do need to do. We need to use judgment to look after ourselves and make sure that we are safe. So we have two hemispheres for the brain, the right and the left, and they are interconnected. And where we live at the moment in our society, you probably notice that it is predominantly left-brained. They love maths, sciences, everything in its place, everything boxed in, and everything finite, very black and white, yes and no. This is the answer, that's not the answer. Where the right brain, it doesn't like that. The right brain says, well, what about this? That might be the answer, but what about this? And it's always searching and looking for new, things that it can create. That's what the right brain does. And so in our society today, they like to shut that down. And of course, we all know this. When you go to school, one of the first things they say is stop daydreaming. Don't use your imagination. Sit up straight, look forward and listen to me. And that gets you straight into your left brain. And then they tell you, this is this, math, put everything in a box. And this is very useful to interpret the world. But if we're cutting off our right brain, then it's cutting off half of our potential is what it's doing. It's if you're only using half your brain, quite obviously you're only getting half the job done. So we have a right and left brain, and what we need to do is integrate them. It's not about cutting the left brain off. At the moment, most people need to work on their right brain just because society is so left brain. But ultimately, this is all about balance. It's all about balance. Daniel San, balance. So we need to, balance our brains, because the more that we enhance each side, the more they talk, and the more that it actually enhances the brain as a whole. Okay, so if we, and it's been proven, people who are like, mathematicians and physicists and things, if they stop and go and do art or play music or something for an hour, 40 minutes, when they go back to their left brain work, they're better at it because they've turned on their intuition, you see. So when you're in your left brain, you want to put everything in boxes, but you still need that intuition to say, what about this? What about this? Or else you can't go forward. Without new ideas, we can't go forward. So it's very important to integrate our left and right brains and to understand that they are two different brains that interpret the world differently. They have done experiments. They have cut people's corpus callosums. The interconnection between the right and left brain has been cut. And this was started to help people who had huge epileptic seizures, the really bad ones. What are they called? Mal something seizures. And basically what they were finding is they thought the seizures were caused by the messages being sent by the right and left brain being corrupted as they went through the corpus callosum. And so it basically, instead of getting a good clear message through from the right to the left or vice versa, it was going into the corpus callosum and just just turning things on and spreading stuff out and basically causing people to have epileptic fits. So they severed this corpus callosum in a few people, and they had some interesting effects because now the brains can't talk to each other. So they could actually put a cover over someone's eye and ask some questions, and they would get completely different answers depending on which eye that they covered over. And with our brain, the right side of our brain controls the left side of our body, left side of our brain controls the right side of our body. So if you cover the right eye, you're then talking to the left brain. So if you ask the left brain a question, you'll only get sequential answers. And the left brain can see and it can interpret it. It can see like a bookshelf and say that's a bookshelf. So you can ask the left brain, is that a bookshelf? And it'll say, yes, it's a bookshelf. If you cover the left eye, so you're talking to the right brain doesn't interpret things like this. If you say, what's that? It won't say a bookshelf because it doesn't really know. It's more to do with concepts and new ideas. And it's basically just saying, it would be more about, the form and the energy and the way it sat there and looked, and it would kind of explain different facets of the bookshelf to you, but it wouldn't necessarily tell you that it's a wooden piece of furniture with shelves that you put books on. So our brains are completely different. They interpret the world completely differently. And like I said, we do need both sides of our brain. And the more we work on both sides, everyone is more right or left brain, just as we're more right or left-handed. But this is the thing, if we ignore the thing that, our left brain, if we're not so left brain, if we ignore that, then it's actually going to take away from our right brain as well, from our whole brain, from our whole learning and interpreting experience. So this is why it's good to use both sides of your brain, use your imagination and also use your sequential, logical maths brain. Because the more interaction you have between your left and right brains, the more intelligent you are. I mean, is that the right word? I don't know, but basically you're going to get more information in, you're going to interpret it easier because you're using both brains to interpret your information. Okay, and that means that you'll get the full picture, and it's easier to link other things to that because you're thinking with your whole brain. If you're thinking just with the left brain, then you can look at, a bookshelf, and then you can see something else that is a bookshelf, but maybe it's 200 years old and it's very ornate and it doesn't look like the bookshelves of today. You're not going to make that link if you've only got your left brain. Okay, if you've got your left and right brain working and they're integrating properly, then you can see, you can interpret things, as, yes, a physical form, but also as the more sort of, esoteric meaning, the more sort of the beauty side of it, the artwork, all that kind of stuff. But you can tie that in and say, yes, it's still a bookshelf if you've got your left and right brain working. So we need to integrate these, and there's a thing called cross coordination. So basically, like I said, your left side of your brain controls the right side of your body, right side of your brain controls the left side of your body. So the more that we can cross coordinate, the more, physically they're going to interact as well. The more your brain will the more signals you'll get going through your corpus callosum. And so the more your right and brain hemispheres will interact and you'll build stronger connections. And this is really what intelligence and recall and all this kind of stuff is. We build connections, we build the myelin sheaths, which are basically the insulation that goes around our neurons and dendrites and all this kind of stuff. And so the more insulator you have around a neuron, the faster that the signal can travel through that neuron is basically how it works. So yeah, you get more connections, you'll get bigger sheaths, and your brain will work faster, like literally, physically, it will. This is all proven. So yeah, cross-coordinated. So things, just walking. When you walk, you swing your arms, obviously, and obviously we don't swing them together. We swing, left, up, right, back, and then we cross-coordinate. Same with our legs. Babies do this. This is why it's so important for babies to crawl. If babies don't go through their crawling stage properly, they have problems later in life. They have big problems, with their cognitive ability. And then, doctors and pediatricians, they know this, but a lot of parents, they push their kids to walk, and it's like, oh, my kid's not walking yet. And they don't let them crawl for as long as they're supposed to. Now, crawling, like I said, it's so important. But children know when they're going to walk. They know when they're meant to walk. You don't need to push them. They will do it. So yeah, all this cross-coordination stuff is very important. Down to things like, because I learned all this when I was, 14 or something. And so what I did, and I've done it ever since for the last, 30 years, I actually brush my teeth with different hands. So I use my right hand to do one side and the up side, and then my left hand to do, the other side and the down teeth. And just little things like this build up cross coordination in our brain, and it gets our brain talking. Anything to do with art, if we can do art but involve the left brain as well. If you're drawing pictures but you're also using angle, like architecture is a perfect example, because they're creating a building, but they still need to use their right angles. They need to know the maths. And so that's a whole brain activity. And these are the activities that will, improve our brains, our cognitive ability, and will literally make us more intelligent. It'll help us to see the world with more information so that we can interpret that information better and make better decisions. This is how we improve our lives, mentally, by being autodidactic, by being self-educated. Another great one, a really good one for your brain, is juggling. At the moment, my left arm is not working properly. I had an accident in a car a few weeks ago, but when it does work again, a few weeks, if you want, I can do a video and show you all how to juggle, because juggling it's probably the best cross-coordinating activities that you can do, because juggling is not done the way that you think it's done. People think you just sort of throw balls, around in a circle. That's not how you juggle. You actually have to throw them across your body to get it working. So it's a really, really good activity for cross-coordination. If you have young kids, or if you're, a teacher working with kids, I highly recommend juggling. It's fun. It's a skill. It's something that kids can be proud of, because not a lot of people can juggle. So if you teach a child to juggle, they can be proud of that. They can go out and show people, but it's also improving their cognitive ability and literally making the pathways, their neurons, work better. This is what it does. So anything that's cross-coordinating. So things like sports, dancing. There's also something called Brain Gym that someone's developed, and that has lots of different information. If you just Google Brain Gym, you'll find it. Lots of different exercises for cross-coordinating, and obviously dancing, aerobics, anything that you're going crossways on your body is going to be good. Obviously good for your physical body too, but very good for your brain and the interconnection between your right and left hemispheres. And if you wanted to know how big your brain is, basically get your two fists like that, put them together, and that's the size of your brain. That's the size of half, one of the hemispheres. And it is, your hand is the size of your brain. There's my hand disappearing. Oh, look at that, I'm a ghost. So that's how big your brain is. But your brain we need both sides of our brain. The society we live in is definitely trying to put us just in the left side of our brain. And that holds us back from interpreting the world as it actually is, and we only get half the picture. Only use half your brain, you're only going to get half the picture. So it is very important. And of course, all these right brain activities are things that, society deem, not as valuable. Look at the school system. They're getting all the arts, music and everything out of it now. And all they want to focus on is maths and science and things like this, which are left brain. In general, in society, if you're talking about concepts that aren't generally accepted, if you're using your right brain to sort of go out there and create and get new concepts, society doesn't like that, does it? We know this. And so we are basically taught and told not to use our right brain, to shut it down and to just use our left brain. And this is a big problem, just because it holds us back, and we, like I said, we don't get the full picture of life and what's going on. So I hope I got the message out to you that I wanted to. It's basically that you have two brains, and it's very important to use both of them and to interconnect them. And we do this through cross-coordinating our physical body, but also through mental things that we do, mental activities that are going to use our right and our left brain. So I hope that made some sense to you. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you all on the next video.